The silk wedding dress felt like chains against her skin. Emma stood before the mirror in her sister's bedroom, watching as their mother fastened the buttons with trembling fingers. This wasn't her dress. This wasn't her wedding. And the man waiting in that hospital bed couldn't even open his eyes to see the bride he'd never chosen. "Stop crying," her mother whispered, though her own voice cracked. "You're doing the right thing." Emma wanted to scream that nothing about this was right. 3 weeks ago, she'd been finishing her teaching degree, planning summer lessons for underprivileged kids, living a quiet life she'd built with her own hands. Then Sarah's car accident changed everything. Her beautiful, vibrant older sister, the one who'd landed the Millionaire Fiancé, the one who always got everything she wanted, was gone in an instant. And somehow Emma had inherited her nightmare. "The Whitmore family needs this marriage to go through," her father had said, unable to meet her eyes. The merger, the contracts, everything was tied to the wedding date. "If we back out now, we lose everything. The house, the business, all of it." "What about Marcus?" Emma had asked. "He's in a coma. He doesn't even know Sarah is dead." "Which is exactly why this works," her uncle interjected. "The family lawyer with ice in his veins. Legally, the marriage stands. The Whitmores get their merger, we keep our end of the bargain. Marcus won't know the difference until he wakes up. If he wakes up." The cruelty of it had stolen her breath, but looking at her mother's desperate face, her father's defeated shoulders, the weight of 3 generations of family legacy crumbling, what choice did she have? Now, standing in that suffocating dress, Emma made herself a promise. If she was being forced into this medieval arrangement, she'd at least honor it with dignity. She'd care for this stranger in his hospital bed. She'd be there when he woke. And she'd tell him the truth, face whatever consequences came. She wouldn't be like them, the parents who could trade daughters like livestock, the lawyers who saw only dollar signs. The ceremony was performed in Marcus Whitmore's private hospital suite, witnessed by lawyers and family members who couldn't look each other in the eye. The officiant rushed through the vows. Emma spoke her lines to an unconscious man who looked younger than she'd expected, his strong features softened by stillness. When it came time for the kiss, she pressed her lips gently to his forehead instead. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." The families cleared out immediately after. Satisfied their legal obligations were met, Emma's parents hugged her stiffly and disappeared back to their lives. The Whitmores were polite but distant, treating her like an employee they'd hired rather than someone who'd just joined their family. Only Marcus's grandmother lingered. The elderly woman studied Emma with sharp eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. "You're not Sarah," she said simply. Emma's heart stopped. "Mrs. Whitmore, I may be old, but I'm not blind." Sarah visited Marcus exactly twice during his recovery. She spent both visits on her phone. The old woman's voice was matter-of-fact, not unkind. "You, on the other hand, have been here every day for 2 weeks, reading to him, talking to him, bringing flowers. Before you were even married." It was true. While the lawyers hammered out details, Emma had started visiting. It felt wrong to marry someone she'd never met, even under these circumstances. She'd read him news articles, chapters from her favorite books, told him about the world outside his window. The nurses had smiled at her. His grandmother had noticed. "He deserves to know the truth," Emma said quietly. "He does," the grandmother agreed. "But he also deserves kindness, which you've already shown him more than my granddaughter ever did." She patted Emma's hand. "I won't say anything, but when he wakes up, tell him everything. Marcus values honesty above all else." So Emma fell into a strange routine. By day, she worked at the community center, teaching art to kids who couldn't afford supplies. By evening, she sat at Marcus's bedside. She told him about her students, about little Sophia, who'd discovered she could paint feelings she couldn't speak, about James, who'd been acting out until he found expression in clay. "I know you can't hear me," she said one night, adjusting his blankets. "But I hope you don't mind the company. Everyone keeps saying you're this ruthless businessman, but your grandmother says you anonymously fund 3 children's hospitals. I'd like to think that's the real you." She studied his face in the dim light, the strong jaw, the dark lashes, the lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled more than people gave him credit for. "When you wake up, I'll tell you everything. I'll understand if you hate me. I kinda hate me too." Her voice dropped to a whisper. But I want you to know, I didn't do this for the money or the merger. I did it because my parents were desperate. And maybe that's not a good enough reason, but it's the only one I have. The weeks turned into months. Emma's students made get-well cards for Mr. Marcus, covering them with bright paint and glitter. She taped them around his room, transforming the sterile space into something alive with color. Sophia wants to know if you like purple, Emma said, tacking up another masterpiece. I told her you probably love it, because who doesn't love purple? She was hanging the last card when she heard it, a small sound behind her, like an exhale. Emma spun around. Marcus's eyes were open, blinking slowly against the light. For a moment, they just stared at each other. You're awake, Emma breathed, hitting the call button for the nurse. You're actually awake. The cards, Marcus croaked, his voice rough from disuse. Did you make all these? No, my students did. They wanted to help you feel better. She poured him water with shaking hands. How do you feel? Confused. He took a careful sip. Who are you? This was it. The moment she'd been dreading and preparing for. I'm Emma, she said, her heart hammering. And I need to tell you something. Your fiancée, Sarah, she died in the accident. I'm her sister. And I married you while you were in the coma. She watched his face, waiting for the anger, the betrayal. But Marcus just looked at her, processing, his brilliant mind piecing things together even through the fog of awakening. The merger, he said finally. They needed the marriage clause fulfilled. Yes, I'm sorry. I know it's unforgivable, You've been here, he interrupted, looking around at the cards, the flowers, the books stacked on his side table. The nurses told me someone came every day. That was you? Emma nodded, tears spilling over. I know I can't make this right. I'll sign whatever papers you want. Divorce, annulment, anything. But I want you to know I'm sorry. For all of it. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something she never expected. Tell me about Sophia. What? The girl who wants to know if I like purple. A small smile tugged at his lips. Tell me about her. So Emma did. As doctors rushed in, as the family was called, she sat beside Marcus's bed and told him about the kids who'd sent their love to a stranger, about the boy who'd been hungry and angry, until someone fed him and taught him to sculpt, about the girl who'd been so quiet she was invisible until art gave her a voice. You funded their program, Marcus said softly. I remember now, the community center grant application. That was you? He nodded. Anonymous donations make people uncomfortable. They want to know the agenda, but there wasn't one. I grew up with resources. Seemed right to share them. Over the following weeks, as Marcus recovered, something unexpected bloomed between them. Emma had promised honesty, so she gave it, told him about her parents' desperation, the family business on the brink of collapse, her own agonizing choice. Marcus, in turn, told her about Sarah, about how their engagement had been more business arrangement than love story. I'm not angry, he said one afternoon as they sat in the hospital garden. I'm not happy about being deceived, but I understand desperation. And you've been nothing but kind since. That doesn't make it right. No, he agreed. But it makes it human. When Marcus was finally discharged, he surprised everyone by asking Emma not to move out of the house where she'd been staying. We're legally married, he said practically, and I'd like to get to know my wife if that's acceptable. So they did the whole thing backward, marriage first, then dating. Marcus came to the community center and ended up teaching financial literacy to teenagers. Emma introduced him to her students, who draped him in macaroni necklaces and declared him pretty cool for a rich guy. They had dinner together, took walks, talked for hours about everything from childhood dreams to fears about the future. I think I'm falling in love with you, Marcus said one evening, 6 months after waking up. Is that crazy? Emma's heart swelled. If it is, then we're both crazy. Because I'm falling for you too. Even though this started with lies? Maybe, she said softly. It started with fear and desperation. But it's becoming something real. A year after that impossible wedding, Marcus took Emma back to the hospital chapel. This time, he was awake. This time, they both chose to be there. I, Marcus Whitmore, he said, tears in his eyes. Take you, Emma, as my wife. Again. But for real this time. I take you too, Emma whispered. Awake, willing, and so grateful for second chances. As they kissed, their first real kiss as partners who'd chosen each other, Emma thought about the journey that had brought them here. The terrible choice that had somehow led to the greatest gift of her life. Sophia, now Marcus's most vocal admirer, threw rice mixed with purple glitter. See? She announced to anyone who'd listen. I told you he liked purple. And in the end, it wasn't the millions or the merger that mattered. It was the kindness that grew in impossible soil, the love that bloomed from ashes, the reminder that sometimes the worst moments lead to the most beautiful destinations. If you're brave enough to stay honest, stay kind, and stay human through it all.